Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Crystal Hill here, founder and CEO of Hill House Publishing, where we help purpose-led leaders and entrepreneurs to write and publish their transformational books and also help them become authors in multi-author books. And today I have the great pleasure to introduce you to Rebecca Ford, who is a retirement coach and has a very particular story as to why she became a retirement coach. She's also an author in our upcoming book, Beyond Conditioning, Living Life on Your Terms. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Crystal. I appreciate being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I can't wait to let everybody hear your story of how did you, let's start with this first. Who are you and how did you choose that topic, that niche of retirement?
Well, thank you for the question. I've been on a journey for the last few years as I've known that retirement, age 65, is fast approaching. I've been doing a lot more self development and came across a program that really resonated with me and really showed me that I'm meant for more. And that was like the gateway into, okay, so when I cease my professional career, so to speak, my life is not going to end. I don't, as I say, I don't have to go from a 9 to 5 to a rocking chair on the front porch for the next 20 years. There's more that I can do. And I shifted my lens to be more of service. And by that, I mean, I had the example of my dad as I was growing up. He retired at 65 after working 40 years, company man, was given a gold watch and little pension, and that door closed and he walked right into 2 years of depression. And it was so heartbreaking to see. And it took him years to reinvent who he wanted to be in his final 20 years. And even though there is a shift in society now and people are opening up to different ways of being quote unquote retired, there's still opportunity to highlight more of the lifestyle and how we can be more purposeful and have meaningful lives, even if we are not going to work Monday through Friday, and doing that whole hamster wheel, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think, you having come from kind of a corporate career, a rich and varied corporate career, and now being an entrepreneur, I feel as an entrepreneur, the retirement is a lot more fluid, right? Like I meet a lot of people, sometimes in their 70s, and because they love what they do, they've just never stopped. So it's very different because there's a purpose behind it. And I believe that that is something that you help your clients to find. Do you want to talk a little bit about that process and that journey?
Well, I have to be candid. This is still a budding business. I am still working my 9 to 5, and I don't retire for another year. So I'm still in the process of building the foundation of my business. And one of the things that I'm in the process of doing is developing a course for retirement readiness. So just starting to think about different aspects of retirement. The mindset is a huge component. How are we going to reframe our view, our thoughts, and our way of being after we've retired? Are we just going to be couch potatoes, or are we going to actively get involved and maybe reignite some of the passions that we had put on the back burner for all those years, and or contribute to the community? So a lot of what I'm doing right now is preparatory for when I do retire, but I'm still trying to get out there and make my presence known and align with some of these lifestyle concepts of mindset and resilience and continuous growth, whether it's education or personal development. So those are the values that I have and that I really want to build on and be able to connect with individuals that are like-minded, that I can partner with them. It's their journey too. And I can just be somebody objective to maybe help guide them down, one way or another.
Absolutely. So if there's somebody listening right now and maybe they're retiring in 5 years' time and they're thinking, oh, I wonder what life will be like after that. And it is so much about identity, isn't it?
Yes.
Like we've been one identity as a professional and suddenly we have a different identity. They could contact you right now, right? To help
absolutely.
them prepare.
Absolutely, because and thank you for bringing up that very key word, identity. That's what I resonated with the most, is like, my identity has been tied to every single job title I have ever had, or who I am is what is equal to what I do. And I don't want somebody else to wait 62, 63 years to realize, no, you are who you are, a beautiful soul, who you are right now, and somebody who can contribute so much more beyond the confines of, a regular, job, Monday through Friday type of job.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. So, and because we've written a book on conditioning, or rather, how do we move beyond the conditioning we've been given? And it's been a fascinating journey to witness everybody to go through that, I have to say, because there's been so many parallels, which really made me realize that there is cultural conditioning, family conditioning, but also generational conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the key that's really dropped in for me. It's like, wow, we have generational conditioning. What you were conditioned with, I still have, but maybe not even, like, I'm not that far behind you, but I have a slightly different feel to it. Like 10 years can do a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so where am I going with this? That this question of, this question of conditioning. Maybe let's dive into that a little bit and then relate that to the conditioning as a society that we have of retirement, which again, because of life and culture moving and evolving, is also a bit of a generational thing. Because what happened to your dad, is not going to happen to you, but there may still be people in your generation that this happens to, and so we need to avoid that. So anyway, I'm just like opening a can of worms here around conditioning, generational conditioning, retirement, the concept around retirement and conditioning. I'm going to throw it into your court to pick up wherever you want to with that.
Okay, thank you. When I was doing, a particular section in the chapter and trying to reflect on my mom and dad's upbringing and their generational and ancestral upbringing and conditioning, it was fascinating to actually see some of the themes come through, to me and our family. Yet there started to be a little bit of a shift, and which was nice to see. The shift in the sense of, when you are old, you get put into, an old person's home and you're tucked away. And, which we in our family my immediate family did not experience. I was actually the middle child, the only daughter, single. Come on home. Let's start facilitating the transition for mom and dad and do all the things. And I'm actually feel very blessed and fortunate that I had that, as difficult and challenging and heart-wrenching as it was. That was new for my family. And it was very, poignant time. I'm actually getting chills now remembering it, because we are actually recording on what would have been my parents' wedding anniversary. So they are definitely with me. As I think more recently, I'm seeing a shift in how we view retirement, that we are seeing more advertisements and conversations about active seniors. We're not just tucking them away. We can see value in a person's entire life. There were times where in my upbringing, it was like, oh, goodness gracious, we have to go over to my grandparents' house, and they lived right around the corner. So it's not like we're having to travel very far. But it was, in hindsight, it was another gift to be able to have at a young age exposure to the different generations. Some cultures do that extremely well. I felt blessed in hindsight that we did a good job of integrating all of our generations. So I think that's where I'm going to start rambling. So I'm going to stop at this point.
Yes, no, I really appreciate that thing around integrating all the generations, because we can learn from everyone. And you're right, there is such a perception that because, and again, this comes from a cultural conditioning, because seniors don't contribute financially back into the system, suddenly they're worthless. And
Right.
so and because they're becoming physically frail, suddenly they're a burden. And I think what you're doing is, in your work, really helping us to reprogram those conditioned beliefs, and probably partially because you've had that, in your family, and as you just shared, but to say, there is so much wealth of wisdom to tap into, lived
Right.
experience that we can all learn from. And so let's reprogram the way of thinking that they become worthless and useless, but let's help. What you're doing is you're actually helping them to find that own self-value and that self-worth in knowing who they are and what they can, they can contribute differently now. And that's really, really beautiful.
And one of the thoughts that came to mind is that whether it was their family dynamics or it was generational, they didn't talk a lot about their upbringing, whether, there was trauma or that was what they were conditioned. Oh, we just don't talk about that. And as I started doing ancestry research, it's now I'm getting stories, and it's like, oh, wouldn't it have been even more of a blessing to be able to sit down with this marvelous technology that we have with Ancestry.com, or, the other genealogical sites and programs, and be able to have that conversation with my family, and that would make it so much more rich. And actually going through this process of writing this chapter, I'm realizing personally, it's getting more integrated how important stories are. I hear it all the time as, in content creating, okay, you connect with your stories, but here this drove that point home. And it's not just to hear my own voice talk. It's a way of connection with human beings and with society, and having dialogue with others that is really important. And knowing that, regardless of what age, have those conversations, get to know people, and draw out their stories, and learn so much. And it so enriches each other's lives.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you're sharing that about storytelling, because when you're sharing your story, somebody else will relate that story to their life, either comparing it or contrasting it, and then they can see their story through a different lens, or they can take learnings from your hindsights and from your insights and apply them to their lives and their stories in a way that they couldn't otherwise have done. So yeah, I love the power of storytelling, and I loved what you shared, that it actually, by not just writing a story for social media and just, your origin story of why you do what you do, but actually expanding that in a chapter helped you to deepen that awareness. And so I'm curious to dig into that a little bit deeper. How was it writing your chapter? It's, you knew you came into this to write a chapter on conditioning and using your story, but also then sharing your expertise. How was writing that chapter for you?
It wasn't me. It was a divine download. We started, the journey officially a few months after, I was advised we were going to begin. And so, me being who I am, of course, I'm going to get a jump start on everything, and I'm just going to have it all written before we even start. And as you mentioned, in some of your videos, it's like, it's going to take just a couple of hours. And it did. I sat down and it poured out. And I felt very pleased and honored, when you said, you complimented me on my writing. And it's like, I've never written this way before. Never. And so much flowed. It was a dump, and in a good way. And then so it was a journey even for myself to realize, I've written papers for school and for grad programs and all this sort of stuff, but this was more of a creative writing. It was certainly personal, and being able to tap into the fact that, oh, I have a story to tell. I came in confident. It's like there was a knowing that I was going to do this project, and there was no hesitation, no reservation. And then the divine download came, and yet there was still that illumination that I still hadn't really connected myself with this download. And I'm not finding the right words to capture the experience, but I believe that I'm forever changed by doing this project.
There's something that you said where you said, even I have a story to share. And I think that's such an important belief there. To firstly, what comes, the opposite is that, like, oh, my story doesn't matter. I mean, who would want to read my story? My story is just my life. That's just me. That's nothing. Right. That's, of course, that's my story. But then to realize, actually, I have a story, and it can help others, enlighten others, and move others. I think that belief shift is so important, and I'm so happy that you experienced that, because it's very common still, and this is one of the beliefs that I'm so passionate in shifting. We all have a story to share, and we know that in our head, right? Because
right.
But to really, what happened in the process of you writing yours is that you started to embody that, and you started to really own your story as something that gives you this deep wealth of knowledge and wisdom from which you share and teach and coach that may not have been previously there. Right. So I think that's why I love doing what I do. This is why I love doing these books, because the transformation, I just have to hold the container, and the work does the thing, the writing. Like, everybody always gets exactly what they need to get. And that's that really gives me so much joy, and I find it deeply humbling as well, and fulfilling to be the facilitator for that. So I think for everybody listening, when you tell yourself, I have a story to share, how does that resonate? Does that feel right? Does that feel like, oh no, I don't? Oh yeah. And the other piece to that is that because we're so close to our story, it's so normal to us, we don't actually see the brilliance in our story that other people see. So sometimes the invitation is to step outside of us for a moment, which is what you can do when you read it back to yourself, right? You write a story down, you read it back, so, oh wow, that's my story. Mm-hmm. So there's something very powerful in that as well.
Yes.
So was there something? Did you have a thought? No. Now, having read, the book isn't published yet, so that's another, that will be the next level of, visibility, the next level of embodiment of that piece. How do you now step into the work that you're doing? Like, how will you step into it differently? What are you now embodying to those that you're working with?
That's an excellent question. And maybe that's where some of my nerves, with this evening's conversation started from, is like, this wasn't just an assignment that I'm doing for, school, or, a presentation at work. This is my life. This is my story. And yes, it was a divine download. And there will continue to be a journey of having it be integrated and more deeply in me. And it's not a one and done. It's a process. Just like transitioning from, a working career to retirement, it's still a process. There are things that we're going to have to navigate, and we're going to have, our doubts. We're going to have our imposter syndromes. We're going to have our challenges, our anxiety, and that's all part of the journey. And we can just have, when we have me being a guide, in a coaching capacity, I'm able to walk alongside somebody, knowing that a lot of what I've done, I've already walked that path, and, or something similar to it. And, we're going to ebb and flow through the journey in order to move closer to our authenticity, to, connect with, our purpose post-career. So, that I'm not sure that was the most crystallized answer to the question, but and that's kind of where it is, because every day is different, every challenge is different, and we have to, make those conscious choices. Are we going to just sit back, or are we going to lean into it? Leaning into it may not feel comfortable. It doesn't feel comfortable that I haven't completely embodied my experience yet, but it is still a journey, and it's happening. It's slowly working its way down into my soul, just as, helping to guide somebody through a major life transition. It's a journey. And, I welcome the opportunity to work with anybody who feels that I can help support them in this path. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you've answered it beautifully, because what you've brought out is to say, life is a journey. Transitions are a journey. There is no set start and finish point. It is ever continuing. And I think what you've demonstrated with the way you've just shared just now is that you have the capacity to be with what is and to show up in that. And you know, just beautifully, vulnerably opened, you know, gave expression to what we all go through. And I think that's what makes you a really phenomenal coach and somebody that can be trusted to as you said, walk alongside another human that is in transition and that is trying to figure this out. And who am I? Who am I now? What do I want? What does give me pleasure and excites me? So yeah, no, thank you for just bringing that vulnerability into this conversation.
You're welcome.
So if there was one last nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners and viewers, what would that be? Actually, before you do, let's show them where they can find you, and then we can end on the wisdom. So for people who would like to reach out to you, it's RebeccaFordCoaching.me. It's on the screen right now. What's the best way to contact you? Now, this is where they can check out what you're doing and a little bit more about the programs.
Yes, that's my website. Exactly. Sorry to interrupt. I'm on Instagram, so at Rebecca Ford Coaching, and I can, you know, somebody can direct message me absolutely from there. I would love to, you know, hear from anybody who, you know, feels that they want to connect with me. As far as a parting closing statement, you know, or words of wisdom, I think that, you know, it is a journey. It's not set in stone. This is part of our conditioning was a checklist of things that we needed to do in our life. We need to go to school. We need to get an education. We need to be married and have 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, a career, and, you know, progress up a corporate ladder, all of the things. And that particular path will end someday. And that's the conditioning that society has mapped out for us. But we have the opportunity and an exciting opportunity to chart our own course, to do what we want. We'll have the time, you know, and to, you know, connect with our friends, not just on a chat, on a text, you know, or in Facebook or, you know, we can go in person and have coffee, go for a walk. We can do so many different things. The world is actually open to us. It is not closed to us. And it may still feel that way at times, and that's okay. You know, here I'm going into this and trying to build this as a business. And yet there was a period of time last year that I was like, oh my God, who am I going to be without all these people that I interact with every day? Okay. So even I go through the same thing. And it's a constant conversation with myself to continually reset and reframe, reimagine, and just delight in the fact that I have the ability as a human being to recraft a radiant retirement. And that's what I hope to be able to have an opportunity to do with others.
Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your passion for this as well. It's so beautiful to see, you know, this excitement, this curiosity. Is like, what are we going to create when we retire? Like, let's play, you know, let's explore. There's a freedom here that we haven't had before. So, and even for those listening who may not be at that stage where they're about to retire, I think this reimagining, this asking this question along the way, along a career path is also important as then to prepare for and be more ready for that time. Yeah. So thank you so much, Rebecca,
You're
for
welcome.
sharing your wisdom and your passion with us. And yeah, we'll see you very soon. Thank you for listening.
All right.
And yeah,
Thank you.
your story matters and your journey. It's a journey, right? It is a journey.
Mhm.
Thank you.